because right now we're having a debate at the legislature over some of the Second Amendment topics out there, the bills coming up. Some of you may have heard, by the way, that the concealed carry bill is being pulled today by Raleigh Heat from doing away with the right to concealed carry on college campuses. So the sponsor is going to try and pull that up. Not exactly sure why. I suspect part of it is because there was so much bad publicity surrounding Joe Salazar and Edie Hayduke and some of their crazy and sadly loopy remarks that got, not because they were crazy and sadly loopy, but because they were actually caught saying them and people found out about them. If you're familiar with those folks, you realize that they say crazy and loopy things day after day, just nobody cares about it. So that's going to be a good thing, I think, probably as a start. There is, in fact, only one person right now, Angela, I want to say her name is Giron, G-I-R-O-N, out of the 5th Senate District in Pueblo. She seems to be the deciding vote on the magazine capacity. They have 2 of the Democrats saying they're going to vote against it, so she's the one now. So she's getting a lot of pressure in Pueblo about her vote one way or another. Magpul has been talking about her now, because Magpul, which if you look at the media reporting what Magpul does, I've seen people saying they make ammunition, that they don't make ammunition, they don't make firearms, they make parts, they make ammunition, magazines and other parts for it. They don't make any ammunition itself. So it's interesting to see how uninformed our media is. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Second Amendment quickly. We had a rally here 2 weeks ago that I gave a little talk at, and I was really happy with the attendance, and I was happy at the response we got from it, and I was happy with the attention that we had, because it's easy to be upset, but it's hard to do things. It's one thing to show up and shake your fist and be upset and go home and then not do anything. And we have a long tradition of doing that with some of these topics, where we're not doing something, we're just talking about how unhappy we are. So we've had a lot more response to these Second Amendment situations from activists. And Bill Clinton, you may recall, about a month ago, Bill had said, he's always Bill to me. I've followed his career so long, I feel a connection with him. Said, look, don't underestimate Second Amendment people. Don't look down your nose at them. They're a powerful lobby group. They don't forget, which is something that everybody assumes what's going to happen, is that they're going to do something, it's going to be another year and a half before elections come around, you'll be outraged about new things and move on from this. What Clinton had said is, look, in '94, this topic, the assault weapons ban, probably cost us the House. And some of you remember that Tom Foley was the Speaker of the House at that time. Remember what happened to Tom Foley? He didn't just lose the speakership, he lost his job. He was voted out in Washington. He wasn't only not Speaker anymore, he wasn't representative anymore. So there were some pretty big developments then. And Clinton says that a lot of it came about from the assault weapons ban and some of the rhetoric, the anti-gun rhetoric that came out of people. He also pointed out, I think I talked about this a little bit in the column I wrote for the Sentinel, that he thought in 2000 that Gore's support of some what was looked upon as the anti-Second Amendment legislation in Colorado cost Gore Colorado in 2000, because he was demonized, rightly so, as being anti-firearm. So I think that Bill Clinton has a lot better finger on the pulse of this than some of the other Democrats. There's going to be fallout from this Second Amendment debate in the Colorado State Legislature. So to some extent, I'm pleased to have it go on right now. Mike McLaughlin, freshman in, let's see, I can't remember the district number, but it's in Durango, ran as a Second Amendment candidate, some of you may know, because it's been going out, ran as a Democrat that's supporting the Second Amendment, doing this and doing that, and then he supported all of this stuff. He got a call, he's one of the 4 legislators who got a call from Joe Biden. So aside from the fact that he went back on his word, he's not a Second Amendment supporter, but if you are someone that Joe Biden can talk into something, that's a really bad sign. So I think this guy's gonna lose his seat. He only won it from J. Paul Brown by 0.9%. So he's gonna be in real trouble. There's a recall effort down there too. I don't like recall efforts. They're almost never successful. They burn up a lot of money and time from people. So when it comes around for the election, and this guy's just a rep, so he's up every 2 years, then a lot of the energy that could have been put into that, finding a candidate replacing him in 2014 has been burned up by the recall. Just seldom did it, and seldom did it pan out anyway. Let's talk just a minute about first principles. By that I mean where we get the idea of our Second Amendment. Because here's what's important, is this whole debate for Republicans and conservatives and libertarians, the whole thing, on what we're talking about. We're talking about the Second Amendment and firearms rights. It's gotten turned on its head. We've made some mistakes as conservatives in letting the debate go different directions. We've let the debate, over the last 10 years, talk about hunting. Second Amendment's not about hunting. Never occurred to people in 1789, where a lot of their food came from eating every day, that would ever be an issue one way or another anyway. That's not what the Second Amendment's about. I'm not thinking that people are going to stop them from hunting. Now, that may happen now, but that's not what they were talking about then. And so when someone says, oh, a 15-round, 20-round, 30-round magazine, that's not what's used for hunting. That's not the point anyway. The point of the Second Amendment is not about the freedom to hunt, the freedom to target practice, the freedom to collect firearms, none of that stuff. That's not what it's about. And when you go back and you look at a little bit of the history, and I brought one piece in because I thought it would be interesting, that there was more than one draft of the Second Amendment before it got passed as it is now. There were several drafts. Samuel Adams took a draft back in Massachusetts and this and that, but the draft before the one we had, this was on September 4th in 1789, this is what the draft said. A well-regulated militia being the best security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms will not be infringed. And there's a bunch of other drafts of that, all of which talk about the right of the people in a free state. And it's clear what that means is that the Second Amendment, and it seems pretty important because it is the Second Amendment, right? It's not like it was a big afterthought, like, oh, maybe we should throw something in, in the 17th Amendment or the 21st. No, it's a Second Amendment. And the reason it's in there is because the colonists had a lot of experience with this. Because the first thing that always happens whenever you have an oppressive government, or anybody is, they come and disarm the population. So they had first-hand experience with this. And look at it this way. Why is there something in the Constitution about not allowing troops to be quartered in your home? Remember? That's also in there. Why do you think that? It's because they were quartering troops who were essentially suppressing the population in the homes of the people that they were suppressing. That's why that's in there. There's direct experience with it. And that's why the Second Amendment is in there the way it is. They had direct experience with that. Not because somebody said, gosh, I think it'd be a good idea to be able to have a militia. And by militia, of course, we mean essentially an army. Because that's been the argument for a long time. No, that's not it at all. The militia was everybody who had a firearm that could come out and repel foreign invasion, take care of themselves when it came to Indian invasions and stuff like that. What the whole thing is about is not allowing your government to have a monopoly on force. That's it. Because it doesn't have to do with the kinds of guns or this or that. It is at its basis the idea that no monopolization of force by your government can ultimately be a good thing. And so the Second Amendment is put in there not just because you want to be able to protect yourself from marauders or self-defense, or because you may have to throw off the chains of oppression from your own government. It's because the free people have the ability to possess arms and do not have to surrender that natural right to defend yourself from anybody to their government. Because the Constitution is the original, for us anyway, social contract. We throw that around all the time. It is literally a contract between the people and the government they're creating. And when you think about it, you need to think about what the thinking was at the time, and the thinking even as it should be now, which is the idea that there are natural rights that you have. And this is what I pointed out to some of the folks at the rally, and we need to always remember. The government gives you no rights in the Constitution. You possess those rights already. They are given to you by God. They are given to you by the fact that you are a human being alive on this planet. You have the right to self-defense. You have the right to speak your mind. You have the right to assemble. You have the right to pursue your religion. These are natural rights. And never let somebody twist this around and say, well, these rights are given you by the Constitution. No, they're not. They're given to you as a natural right. All the Constitution does is guarantees that the government cannot infringe on those rights. These rights exist before the Constitution. It does not award you anything. And the reason that's so important is because if you allow the idea that a government is awarding you rights, then you immediately are agreeing to the idea that they can take them away. They have no ability to take these rights away because they're not rights given to you by the government. They are rights given to you by the natural order. And so always remember that. Never let anybody start fooling around with this idea that, and it comes from people on our side too. Well, the Constitution gives me the right. No, it doesn't. It guarantees that right. The ability to have these rights are beyond the Constitution. The Constitution is just a guarantee. It's like it's in the bottom of the box, you know, when you buy the TV set, you got the guarantee. That's what this is. And the reason it arises is because it is a contract between the governed and the government they're creating. And the contractual idea is that you are exchanging the right to exercise some of your natural rights for the efficiency, I know that sounds crazy when you're talking about a government, but for the efficiency of a government. The main thing that you give up, the idea was that you give up the right to settle your own disputes. You allow the government that you're creating to set up a system of dispute resolution. Courts, police, law enforcement, a telephone company, all of these things that you allow the government to set up in order to you to be able to prosper and move forward. If you spent all your time beating your neighbor up because he was doing something you didn't like, how would you ever conduct your own business? Instead, you allow the government to put into a system police, statutes, courts, all of that, and you give up your right to settle your own dispute. Right? But you never give up your right to self-defense. That's never in there. That's why every state constitution